What's up, guys? So, yet again, it's a pretty windy day out here at the park, and yet again, there's barely anybody here. Which I don't mind one bit, but I did actually, in regards to my decision to quit sugar yesterday, I did actually have some pieces of bread at lunch, so that probably had some sugar in it. But as I was reading up on it last night, I've come to the decision that it's probably best to quit added and processed sugars, not all sugar altogether, because then that takes off things like apples, bananas, pineapples, and I don't think fruit is really that bad for you in moderation. So I'm not gonna quit sugar entirely, but quit things with processed and added sugar. So I think it's a bit more of a realistic goal. But today I wanted to talk about some of the ways that I think my body has tried to communicate to me throughout the years, maybe even my subconscious self, however you want to look at it. So I've mentioned a few of these in other videos in the past. My psoriasis started, which you can kind of see here, and a little bit on my forehead. Some of it's like off to the sides. That didn't start until about 6 to 8 months after I started smoking cigarettes. I've been told cigarettes can be a trigger for it, and maybe that was my body finally being like, enough with the fast food and the cigarettes and the weed and all that stuff. So it's been an ongoing battle. I've been on some medications for it, and they helped, but there are some potential, those medications can cause cancer in some people. So I'm trying to adjust my diet and my lifestyle to naturally get rid of psoriasis. I know some people just need the medication, so I might eventually end up going back on it. But in addition to that, at my last job, I was more stressed than I have ever been in my entire life. My schedule could change at a moment's notice. I was in an environment where it was constantly super loud. People are screaming at each other, partially because they can't hear each other, but also because they're all angry. The managers and supervisors made some really, really stupid decisions at times. Like one time I was going through a political thing, some political mailers that needed to go out, and I told one of the supervisors, "Hey, I think this has been left behind," and she said, "Why are you going through that? I didn't tell you to go through that." So it's like, okay, screw you too then. So she told me to go back and do something else that I had already done. So I was like, okay, great. And I went to go sit in the break room for like an hour. And because, anyways, the point is, that job was ridiculously stressful. And I had taken leave due to mental health issues for a few months. I'm really lucky that I was able to do that. It was a union job, so I was protected and I wasn't fired. But I took all that time off, thought I could take care of my mental health first and then go back once I was ready to go back to that job. And when I went back, the first night I was back, I experienced something I had never experienced before. It was called a scintillating scotoma, and those are usually, from what I've learned, predecessor to an intense migraine. I never got the migraine, thankfully, and the scotoma went away within like 15 minutes. But it was kind of scary. It started as like this shiny tear in the top of my vision. Like if someone told me you like pierced a veil into another dimension or something, that's what I would imagine it would look like. It was kind of like just a rip in my vision, and behind it was like a shimmering, staticky kind of, I don't really know how to describe it beyond that, but it started as a small tear up at the top of my vision, and it just got more and more intense, and eventually I couldn't see out of my peripheries on either eye, and it was just like slowly going into a tunnel vision. And despite being a factory with hundreds of employees, we didn't have a nurse on site 24/7. So I just told the supervisor I need to go sit down for a little bit. And sorry, there's some kind of banner flying in the sky over there. Huh. Anyways, I sat down and I was good within like 5 or 10 minutes. I didn't feel any pain. I wasn't like passing out or anything like that. It was just pretty unsettling because I've never experienced anything like that before. And in looking it up afterwards, I learned that these can be brought on by stress, intense stress. So I attributed it to that, called out for another few weeks, and luckily that was when I got transferred to a different position that I could handle better. So I didn't have to deal with that for very long. But my point is that, again, I think it was my body trying to tell me, like, you can't keep working this stupid job. You're better than this. These managers are ridiculous. And, like, it's the most money I've ever made. It's the best benefits I've ever had. If I could have just stuck with it for like a year or two, I could have saved up and, I don't know, traveled to Europe or something. But I just couldn't deal with it. I have family members that retired from that same place, and they have a relatively happy life, but they're also stressed out and not in the best physical condition. So I just remembered something else that my body had tried to warn me about. I'm not really sure where I'm gonna put this in the video I just recorded, but I used to smoke weed every single day, and I used to smoke way too much, or the stuff was way too strong, or there was something added to it or something. And a lot of former weed smokers will probably tell you something similar, but it got to a point where I would smoke it and I would just get extremely paranoid and just deeply anxious and uncomfortable. And I never really understood why, because I kept buying from the same dealers, they were buying from the same growers, I guess, but I would just smoke a bowl and would just be like, just this overwhelming sense of dread, and like I was doing something wrong, and like something really terrible was going to happen soon. So that led to me switching to CBD products, and I was able to wean myself off from there, which is good. But I wish I had listened sooner, because I had little anxiety attacks in like college, 10, 15 years ago, and I think I just put it off. I was like, oh, I just smoked too much, or I was a bad strain or something. But I wish I had listened sooner. I guess I actually have two other examples, but one of them I mentioned already. Oh, gross. And I mentioned it just yesterday, maybe the day before, but I would open up my Steam library, play a game for 5 minutes, get bored, play a different game, get bored, play a different game, and I should have understood that meant there's a part of me that doesn't enjoy playing video games anymore and see the value in it, because there really isn't any value in it if you're just playing by yourself 6 to 8 hours a day and you're not learning anything. When I should have been doing other things like chores around the house or reading or even watching a documentary or something. And another slightly more esoteric example, I guess you could say, this wasn't my body warning me about something, but I guess you could make the argument that it was the universe trying to tell me something. I was driving around one day, this was about 2 or 3 years ago, and I've never hit an animal while driving, to my knowledge. And I always feel terrible when I see raccoons or possums on the side of the road. And I always knew it would be heartbreaking if I ever hit somebody's cat or somebody's dog or even a lone snake or a rabbit or something. Yeah, I was driving around and I was doing something I shouldn't have been doing. I don't want to say exactly what because it was illegal. I'm not trying to admit to any crimes on my YouTube channel. But I was driving around and I was just distracted. And you know how birds will, I assume they do this everywhere, but they'll be little daredevils and just swoop right down in front of a car as you're driving, and I usually have to tap on the brakes. Well, a robin did that and I didn't notice until it was too late, and I'm pretty sure I hit it with my tail light. So I felt pretty terrible about that, and I took that as like basically a sign from the universe saying, you know, you shouldn't be doing this. Bad things happen when you do this sort of thing. So I stopped. That was the last time I did that. And I knew better, and look what happened. And that's just the result of my carelessness and going against my own morals and what I knew I should and shouldn't do. So yeah, I guess that's really all I have to say now. Not really. This is kind of an awkward ending. I don't really know how to end this. Thanks for watching. Look at my psoriasis.